Welcome back to America Decides. Chief Justice John Roberts today temporarily blocked a ruling from a federal district judge requiring the Trump administration to return a man to the United States that it had mistakenly deported to El Salvador. On Friday, a federal judge ordered the government to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia back to the United States, setting a deadline of midnight tonight. Now, the White House has in court filings admitted a, quote, administrative error, unquote, resulted in him being sent to a Salvadoran prison. This despite a legal order prohibiting his removal. Interestingly, a Justice Department attorney who unsuccessfully argued this case last Friday has been placed on administrative leave. Silvia Foster-Frau joins me now. She's a national investigative reporter for the Washington Post. Spends a lot of her time focused on immigration. It's great to have you here. Thanks so much for joining me. What is the status of this case? And this intervention by the Chief Justice is merely, as I understand it, to give the full court time to look at the briefs and all the underlying arguments.
Right. So it's just putting basically a complete pause on everything right now. There was that deadline that was supposed to be that this man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, was supposed to be back in the United States by midnight tonight. So the Supreme Court's basically intervened, put a pause on it with the hopes of getting breathing room. They asked for his lawyers if they wanted to submit a brief to do so by tomorrow. And so it's really wait and see now for this man and his case.
The Fourth Circuit has ruled on this, though. That's one of the reasons it's gone up to the Supreme Court. It's gone through the process. What did the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals have to say?
The Fourth Circuit was very strong in the fact that basically this man, the government admitted that they had mistakenly sent this man to the El Salvador prison in 2019. He went through the court process that basically said that he had a legitimate fear of persecution from being returned to El Salvador and put a withhold of removal. So basically saying he cannot be deported back to his home country because he has a legitimate fear. And so the fact that the government has now taken this man and put him back in El Salvador in a prison that is filled with gang members from the very gangs that he was fleeing is obviously, very problematic for the attorneys, but also the reason why I think the government itself has admitted we made a clerical error here in sending him to begin with.
And yet the government is arguing, if I understand it, it's a reversible error, an error that this government created but feels powerless or is asserting a sort of powerlessness to correct that reversible error of its own making.
Yeah, so there's an interesting dynamic going on because, there was a big kind of social media splash when this agreement was first made, right? And the Trump administration was saying, we're paying $6 million and we're sending these immigrants to a Salvadoran prison, alleging that they're criminals and members of gangs, though, that has yet to be fully seen.
For all of them.
For
some
all
of them, yes, but for all of them, there's some questions about some.
Yes, right. And actually, CBS was just reporting yesterday that 75% of them, you guys could not find criminal records for them, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so there's this interesting question now that the Trump administration is basically saying they're in Bukele's hands now. They're in the Salvadoran president's hands, and we don't have control over him. But at the same time, they have agreed to pay money for the detention. They had Kirsty Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, go down to El Salvador and kind of tout it as like, this is our new immigration plan. Right. This is part of our immigration enforcement strategy. And so that's the kind of tension we're seeing play out now in court.
And do we have any sense at all of the timeline for the Supreme Court?
No sense.
That's very hard to know.
Yes, it could be, hopefully, thoughts maybe just a few days sometime this week, but hard to say.
And when we talk about the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, there was a three-judge panel that reviewed this case, and it was a unanimous ruling against the Trump administration.
I believe so, yes.
So this is all about a kind of pivotal question about due process. If you have a reversible error, what is your obligation as a government to correct it? And the Supreme Court's going to try to sort all that out.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. Silvia Foster-Frau, I appreciate it. Please come back.